Good morning. I'm Eric Blank, the chair of the Colorado PUC. Before we go on the record, we're going to start with a short summary of the proceeding by our communications director, Ms. Megan Castle. Ms. Castle, you're muted.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, great. I will give a short summary, and it will begin with the JTS application. The Public Service Company of Colorado initiated this proceeding on October 15th, 2024 by filing its application for approval of the JTS, or the Just Transition Solicitation. It was assigned PUC proceeding number 24A-0442E, which is the number to refer to if you want to follow the case further. In this proceeding, Public Service seeks approval of its 2024 JTS. The concept of the Pueblo JTS first appeared in an updated non-unanimous partial settlement agreement that Public Service filed in the 2021 Electric Resource Plan Clean Energy Plan in April 2022, or proceeding number 21A-0141E. The JTS ties to provisions in the updated non-unanimous partial settlement agreement that Unit 3 of the coal-fired facility in Pueblo will retire no later than January 1st, 2031. The Unit 3 retirement date in the partial settlement agreement harmonizes with another provision that allowed Public Service to defer acquiring replacement resources for Unit 3 to the JTS. The concept of the JTS also provided additional time after the approval of the 2021 Electric Resource Plan or Clean Energy Plan for further progress towards the 2050 goal of 100% clean energy, to improve optionality, to give technology time to continue developing, and to maintain flexibility. Public Services application lists several objectives for the JTS, including fulfilling resource adequacy and providing reliable service, continuing progress on emissions reductions, delivering a just transition, and improving Colorado's electric resource planning process. Regarding just transition, Public Services approach consists of a modeling component, a development component, and an economic development component. In addition, Public Service reaffirms its commitment it made in the updated non-unanimous partial settlement agreement to provide 10 years of community assistance payments to Pueblo County and 6 years of payments to Routt County and Morgan County, with such payments being offset by any infrastructure investments in the communities. Public Service states that once the final JTS portfolio is approved, it will file a separate application that would include the community assistance payment values for each community, netted with any new property tax offsets from the portfolio. As for the economic development component, Public Service offers to facilitate discussions with large new loads such as data centers to potentially site these loads in just transition communities. Additionally, on March 13th, 2025, the Commission held a remote joint technical conference in order to ascertain more information from Public Service regarding certain models and forecasts the company has put forth in this proceeding, as well as the company's 2025 through 2029 distribution system plan proceeding. Company witnesses were made available and presented information and answered questions regarding 6 Commission-determined categories of information. In response to the discussions at the March 13th Joint Technical Conference, Public Service on April 2nd, 2025, filed additional testimony titled the Strategic Reliability Reserve Fund. The company states that the Strategic Reliability Reserve Fund is designed to manage supply chain challenges and secure combustion turbines and transformers for the benefit of Colorado customers during the JTS resource acquisition period. There are 24 parties that have intervened in the proceeding. I am going to list them now. Staff of the Public Utilities Commission, the Office of the Utility Consumer Advocate, the Colorado Energy Office, Holy Cross Electric Association, Colorado Energy Consumers, Climax Molybdenum Company, Walmart, Natural Resources Defense Council, and Sierra Club, collectively known as Conservation Coalition, Western Resource Advocates and Southwest Energy Efficiency Project, Healthy Air and Water Colorado, Green Latinos, Grid Alternatives, NAACP State Conference from Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, the Pueblo Branch, Roots to Resilience, and Vote Solar, collectively known as the Environmental Justice Coalition. Pivot Energy, Inc., the Colorado Renewable Energy Society, and the Physicians for Social Responsibility, Colorado. The Board of County Commissioners of Pueblo County, City of Pueblo, Pueblo Economic Development Corporation, collectively known as Pueblo Interveners, Moffat County, Colorado, and the City of Craig, Town of Hayden, and Routt County, Colorado Communities for Climate Action, Interwest Energy Alliance, the Colorado Independent Energy Association, Onward Energy Management, LLC, the Coalition for Community Solar Access, the Eastern Metro Area Business Coalition, the Colorado Solar and Storage Association, the Solar Energy Industries Association, and the Advanced Energy United, collectively known as Clean Energy Industry, and the Office of Justice Transition. So far, Public Service has filed its direct testimony alongside its application, as well as supplemental direct testimony as directed by the Commission. The parties will file testimony by April 18th and can file additional round of testimony, which is known as rebuttal and cross-answer, by May 23rd, 2025. This will be followed by an evidentiary hearing in June, where parties may cross-examine the witnesses on their testimony. After that, the Commission will then take the matter up for decision and decide whether to approve, modify, or deny Public Service's JTS application. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kessel. We're now on the record. It's 11:08 on Monday, April 28th, 2025. Again, this is public comment hearing in proceeding number 24A-0442E, Public Service Company of Colorado's Just Transition Solicitation Plan Filing, or JTS. I'm Eric Blank, the PUC chair. I just want to start off by thanking everyone for coming out, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing your comments. I'll have more to say in a few moments about how this process works, but first, can my colleagues introduce themselves for the record? Commissioner Gilman.
Good morning, Commissioner Megan Gilman.
Good morning, Commissioner Tom Plant.
Thanks. Before we begin taking comments, I want to briefly explain how a public comment hearing works. There is a court reporter who is listening to this proceeding, taking down what you say for the record. This comment hearing is formal, like a court proceeding, and we ask that the audience be respectful of the speakers that comment today. In our role as commissioners, at this stage of the process, we're here to listen and learn and to make sure your comments are reflected in the record. We will not answer questions or respond to statements. Like a judge, we cannot engage in dialogue on a case pending before us. This case is ongoing, and we will not make any decisions until after the evidentiary hearing in June. If you want to speak, please use the raise hand icon or just turn on your camera, and I will call on people in order, starting with elected officials. We have almost 80 people registered for this public comment hearing and almost 60 people on this Zoom. So to allow everyone time to be heard, I request that each commenter limit themselves to roughly 3 minutes. In addition to the remote comments today, another in-person meeting has been scheduled for the City of Hayden on May 1st from 4 to 6, and another virtual public comment hearing is set for Thursday, June 5th from 5 to 7. The Commission equally weighs public comments received written or orally, so we encourage you to follow up by following whatever you'd like in written form. Written comments can be filed through the Commissioner's e-filing system, submitted via the Commission's online comment form, or emailed to dora_puc_website@state.co.us. In each case, specify this proceeding number 24A-0442E. As I said before, we very We very much look forward to your comments. We certainly don't have all the answers, which is why this process and hearing from you is so important. With that, I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here and to share your comments. Commissioner Gilman, any preliminary comments before we jump into it?
Well, good morning again. Thank you all for joining us. Really look forward to hearing your comments today in this important proceeding, and certainly hope folks will also be available to come and join us later this week in person, as well as the chair mentioned. So really appreciate those of you who are joining us for bringing your time and expertise and passion and comments to us today, and look forward to hearing them. Thanks.
Commissioner Plant.
Yeah, I would just echo that. Thank you very much for participating today. As you heard from Ms. Castle, it's a pretty extensive hearing and an extensive process, and we have a lot of intervening parties that represent various members of the public and businesses and things like that. But this is a great opportunity for us to hear directly from the public that's impacted by the decisions that we make. So really appreciate you taking time out of your day to participate in this way, and look forward to hearing the comments.
Thank you. We'll start with Ms. Emily Bear from Erie, I think.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for taking time to hear from the public about Xcel's transition solicitation. My name is Emily Bear. I'm a council member in the town of Erie, and I'm here today speaking on my own behalf. This electric resource plan relies on technical analysis partnered with public participation to achieve a plan for electric supply that is affordable, reliable, and importantly, environmentally conscious. All three of those intentions are important and cannot be compromised. I want to highlight and appreciate that this plan reaches for 92% carbon emission reduction from 2005 levels by 2031 and 93% renewable energy by 2031. Those are admirable and achievable goals. In Erie, we're reaching for 95% renewable energy use by 2050. Xcel should support municipalities in reaching their renewable energy goals. 44% of energy consumption in 2025 was from municipalities with 100% renewable energy goals. It is concerning that this plan proposes more gas plants than ever before. This has the potential to set the state back on our goal of achieving 100% clean energy by 2040 and does not support local communities as we reach for our own clean energy goals. Gas plants emit nitrogen oxide and other localized pollutants that contribute to the health issues and exacerbate ozone woes in the ozone non-attainment area. This plan proposes to site new gas plants in coal transitioning communities. These communities are disproportionately impacted. It is not just to further expose these communities to increased air pollution and the accompanying negative health impacts. In addition to concerns over emissions and health impacts, gas plants are expensive to build and fuel. Wind and solar have no fuel costs or emission concerns. As Colorado approaches our 100% renewable energy goal by 2040, new gas plants will become obsolete, leaving ratepayers to foot the bill for decades to come. Xcel should explore expanding clean energy choice programs in order to maximize clean energy, support municipal clean energy goals, and protect our residents from harmful emissions. This will also support Xcel's goal to be carbon neutral by 2050. And we can do all of this while also protecting ratepayers within the competitive solicitation process. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Renee Chacon.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can.
Awesome. Thank you. Claso Kamatio Meteo, Claso Kamatia Tatonati, Claso Kamatito Nansiklali, Claso Kamatia Abuelitos, Abuelitas, and all the ones that came before and all the little ones to come. We live in the land of the Ute, the Cheyenne, the Arapaho, the Shoshone, the Kiowa, the Comanche, the Inda, the Dene, the Chicano, 48 tribes that still live and travel through this space. My name is Renee Millar Chacon. I am co-founder of Women from the Mountain. On the EJ Action Task Force, co-commissioner with Beatriz Soto of Equity Analysis of Cumulative Impacts, and I'm also a Commerce City Council member for Ward 3. These words my own. I thank you for taking my comments into consideration as you determine Excel's energy just transition solicitation. Local governments across Colorado are setting ambitious and vitally important clean energy and climate goals, but we cannot reduce emissions in a meaningful way unless our electricity provider provides us with emissions-free energy. That's why communities like mine are counting on Excel Energy to lead, not fall behind, in the transition away from fossil fuels. I appreciate all the renewable energy outlined in this plan, but unfortunately, it's not enough when you live in a disproportionately impacted community. Excel must act decisively to acquire as many new clean energy resources as possible without tying us in any near obsolete sources such as gas. Excel must be a leader in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and ensure that Colorado communities can meet our climate commitments for the sake of our community members and the sake of the planet who are suffering right now. What I'm suggesting is that Excel should prioritize replacing the Comanche 3 and Hayden coal units with wind, solar, and battery storage, especially in coal-impacted communities like Pueblo and Hayden. These communities should be the priority, especially from cumulative impacts that can be transformative when we're transitioning to a just transition that also delivers real economic and environmental benefits. Excel should be a leader in replacing coal with renewables and storage over new gas. As clean energy becomes increasingly affordable while fossil fuel prices are only going to rise. Thanks to advances in storage technology, wind and solar already are the cheapest energy sources in Colorado. My husband actually works as a solar engineer, and he educates youth on this every day in all the different ways it can help. We can now power our grid even when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing. Clean energy also brings economic opportunity. Wind and solar industries employ over 500,000 Americans in good-paying jobs, many of which won't require a college degree. Colorado, with its world-class solar and wind resources, has the potential to create thousands more jobs right here and the need to access educational access for disproportionately impacted communities who are being left behind. New gas plants, by contrast, are a dangerous step backwards. They emit pollutants that harm public health, especially in vulnerable communities like mine that I suffer from as well. We're talking about severe migraines, nosebleeds, anemia, asthma, cancer. It just worsens. And it contributes significantly to climate change, which we were able to actually pass a climate proclamation, an emergency climate proclamation here in Commerce City. Colorado Front Range communities already suffering the severe health effects of ozone pollution cannot afford more fossil fuel infrastructure. Gas plants are also a bad economic deal. Volatile prices lead to higher utility bills and new plant risks becoming stranded assets as the state phases out carbon pollution. And we still are not looking at the severe cumulative impacts that communities have to deal with every day if they live by transportation spaces. Excel should also expand clean energy source programs that include zero emission technologies. The source plan should protect ratepayers within a competitive solicitation process for new energy sources and equipment. The PUC should also make sure that this plan focuses on clean, proven technologies, not risky, expensive ones like carbon capture or nuclear. And the company should not shift the cost of powering new corporate data centers into Colorado ratepayers. Our clean energy future must benefit communities, not corporate profits. Our communities are currently dying. Colorado needs leadership from our largest utility, and Excel must rise to the occasion. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Erica Sparkhawk.
Good morning. My name is Erica Sparhawk. I'm on the Carbondale Town Council and speaking on behalf of myself as a resident born and raised in Carbondale and a business owner on the western slope of Colorado. Thank you, commissioners, for all the work you do for our state and for our ratepayers. Truly appreciate it. Carbondale has had a climate action plan in place since 2004. Our community has long been a leader in clean and renewable energy. Carbondale is unique compared to a lot of communities because approximately a third of our residents get electricity from Holy Cross Energy, while the remaining from Excel Energy. Therefore, we experience directly the differences between two utilities and the work that they're doing to achieve climate goals, the state's goals and their own utility goals. Thanks to Holy Cross Energy's aggressive and innovative approach over the last number of years, they are setting an example for all the utilities. They are achieving goals while keeping utility rates the same for their customers. And it means that we know exactly what is possible, so we can ask Excel to do more to be like Holy Cross Energy. As one of the researchers for the Western Colorado Clean Energy Network Solar Plus Storage Study and Action Plan, we mapped out and identified additional capacity for solar on private land in Garfield, Pitkin, and Eagle counties. And we know there is additional interested landowners and capacity to keep building out solar resources and pair them with battery storage. In fact, we identified 52 megawatts of potential just in the Excel territory, which is a very small fraction of the available land in their territory in Garfield County. And it just shows that with that kind of study across their whole territory, there is a massive amount of additional potential that they could be taking advantage of. I am also, like others have already stated, most concerned with planning for building new gas-fired power plants. This seems shockingly short-sighted and like a waste of ratepayer money that should instead be going towards innovation. Innovation like increasing opportunities like geothermal networks, long-term storage opportunities, and then looking at the big picture and working across our Western and Central Plains states, the whole region, to expand transmission lines across our West and East state lines to better share renewables across time zones. And that helps everybody deal with peak demand in a better way. And these would also provide diverse jobs across the state, an important aspect of everything that's part of this just transition. So I think we could all do better and have a much better plan. We're so close to doing the right thing. So let's just make sure that it is the right thing for us and for the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Don Cameron.
Thank you. PUC commissioners, thank you for taking my testimony today on Excel's energy production plans going forward. I'm Don Cameron, City Councilor, Ward 3 in Golden, and speaking on behalf of my constituents and myself. Golden residents have shown again and again that they care about living in the world in a sustainable manner. Golden residents have supported the aggressive but doable plans to align greenhouse gas reductions with the Paris Accord by 2050, to achieve 100% renewable energy for electricity by 2030, and 100% renewables for heating by 2050. To the specific feedback on Excel's energy production plans, I want to raise some concerns. Back in 1959, Edward Teller of atomic bomb fame pointed out that carbon dioxide emissions cause global warming. And in 1965 speech at a Wyoming petroleum industry conference referencing a Lyndon Johnson era report, said one of the most important predictions of the report is that the Earth's atmosphere, by the burning of coal, oil, and natural gas, will increase at such a rate by the year 2000, the heat balance will be so modified as possibly to cause marked changes in climate. The data are clear. We simply cannot keep burning fossil fuels full stop. Excel's energy production plans is on shaky ground in two areas that I see at least. One, the predictions of energy use, particularly around data centers, may not be accounting for the incredible reduction in computing power needed for some of the latest AI models. Secondly, the continued improvement in and adoption of tight building codes will further reduce demands from the built environment. So the demand side may be overstated. On the production side, there's a lot to like about the plan. The use of long-term electrical storage, wind, and solar are laudable. However, to close the gap of the projected needs with gas-fired turbine production is the wrong approach. One of the main challenges facing Golden's goal of 100% electric by 2030 is the already built environment and the built-in inefficiencies of an aging housing stock. But we are rapidly moving to net zero ready construction and are likely to approve net zero ready construction codes soon. Buildings that use fossil fuels for heating or energy production in the case of Excel, with lifespans of decades, will simply tank the ability of Golden to meet its GHG reduction goals and energy goals. There is no scenario that I can envision in which building new facilities at great expense and therefore long payback periods will be retired instantly in 2050. Net zero GHG goals cannot be met if new gas plants come online. Excel needs to double down on research that brings geothermal, dare I say, carbon capture and sequestration, perhaps nuclear and other non-GHG technologies online at production scale. Colorado's oil and gas industry, rather than supplying natural gas, can provide the technology and expertise to radically expand our geothermal use and production. Golden itself is using geothermal wells to radically cut the projected energy use of a new municipal facility, as is Course Tech and their new corporate headquarters. If Golden and local manufacturers can innovate at their respectable sizes, just what can Excel do if it leverages its corporate expertise? Let's use the power of the PUC to move realistically but aspirationally to a cleaner net zero energy future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chris Nichols.
Chris Nichols. Good morning, Commissioners. I am the mayor of the city of Craig. I ask the commission to closely review Craig and Moffitt's answer testimony on Moffett County and the impact the coal industry, Craig Station, and Hayden Station have on our community workforce and tax base. When compared to other coal transition communities, Moffett and Craig face the biggest proportionate loss of tax base and revenue for vital local government services when compared to other Colorado coal communities. Craig Station, a Colorado power plant that is jointly owned by two commission-regulated utilities, Tri-State and Excel, pays approximately 15% of the taxes at Craig Station. Excel does. Excel is consistently a top 5 taxpayer. Moffett and Craig want to ensure the meaningful and robust figures are considered by the commission. The commission should disregard Excel's owner-operator argument that attempts to shield itself from providing Moffett County and Craig with just transition by finding that Excel is both statutorily and morally required to provide community assistance to our community based on its ownership interests in Craig Station and Hayden Station. Tri-State is not the sole owner of Craig Station. The commission should find in the public interest for Craig and Moffett to receive a community assistance plan that accounts for these two components. One, $14,023,000, which accounts to 10 years of Excel's Craig Station share of annual property tax payments. Number two, given the majority of Craig Stations live in Moffett County, of Hayden Station workers live in Moffett County and Craig, an additional $14,797,000 for the direct labor income effects relating to a yearly closure of Hayden Station. This results in a total community assistance request of $28,821,000 for the city and county's economic development fund. Now, many of the other interveners in this case have raised the issue of Excel paying its fair share for its ownership interests at Craig Station, either through community assistance payments or extending the just transition modeling credits for Phase 2 bids to Moffett County. Those parties include the Office of Utility Consumer Advocate, Colorado Energy Office, the Office of Just Transition, and the NOS Energy Alliance. I want to thank you for your time today and commitment to the issue, and I hope you consider all these. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining us. Ms. Nina Waters.
Hi, can you guys hear me all right?
We can.
All right, good morning, commissioners. Thank you so much. My name is Nina Waters, and I am speaking today on behalf of myself and as a Summit County Commissioner. I live in the mountains of Colorado, and where our snowpack is the foundation of both our environment and our economy. In the winter, it drives our tourism and outdoor recreation, and in the summer, it feeds our rivers, supports our agriculture, and supplies water to communities across the state, including the Denver metro area. But our winters are growing shorter. Snow is arriving later and melting earlier, and wildfire seasons are lasting longer. These changes threaten not only our natural resources, but the economic security of thousands of families in Summit County and beyond. In recognizing these risks, Summit County, along with our towns and partners, adopted the Summit County Climate Action Plan, which was setting goals to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030 and 80% by 2050, and to achieve 100% renewable electricity by 2035. We are not waiting for change in Summit County. We are leading it. We have updated and strengthened our building and energy codes to improve energy efficiency, reduce emissions from new construction, and make our buildings more resilient and affordable for the long term. These local actions reflect our deep commitment to clean energy future, and we need our utility partners to match that level of commitment. This is why that I am urging the Commission to ensure that Excel's just transition solicitation prioritizes clean energy and maximizes emissions reductions as soon as possible. Investing in new fossil gas plants would undermine community climate goals across Colorado and risk stranding costly assets, placing an unfair burden on our future generations. It is also critical that our just transition means avoiding the placement of new pollution-emitting infrastructure in the communities that already are disproportionately impacted by past decisions. Justice demands that we move forward, not just simply shift harm. Affordability must remain at the center of this transition. Residents in Summit County are already grappling with high housing costs and raising utility bills. Clean energy must be paired with strong consumer protections so that all Colorado families benefit from the transition, not just some. Our snowpack, our economy, and our communities depend on the choices we make today. I urge you to help move Colorado forward toward a future that is cleaner, more resilient, and more equitable. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate the ability to testify today. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Mr. Eric Johnson.
Good morning. Thanks for the chance to speak. I work as a dry utility coordinator for affordable housing projects in Boulder County. That means I work side by side with Xcel engineers, managers, and crews in the field installing power to our workforce housing projects. I appreciate these folks and their contributions to getting our projects powered up. I also recognize Xcel Energy's proactive corporate stance towards increasing renewable energy in Colorado. Our projects are all electric, including heat pumps and efficient lighting. We are reliant upon a robust electrical grid, but we are not only energy consumers, we are also producers with rooftop solar on every project. We're experimenting with battery storage in resiliency hubs for our residents and with EV charging, including vehicle-to-grid technology. This means that we are positioned to participate in intelligent grid advances with two-way flows of energy to mitigate peak loads. So I endorse the planning in the JTS for Xcel to provide for increased demand as we electrify our buildings and transportation. But there's much about the JTS ERP that concerns me. Increasing reliance on centralized generation, including fossil gas and nuclear, offer a suboptimal future for our shared grid. Wind, solar, battery storage, and energy efficiency provide a more cost-effective and resilient system for Xcel customers. We should not be asking our housing residents to compete with energy-hungry multinational corporations for energy. We should not be asking them to subsidize power plants and transmission lines for speculative data centers, which may or may not materialize. I appreciate that the PUC is hearing from Coloradans like me. I ask the Commission to reject the current JTS and require a revised solicitation that will provide for existing customers, enable beneficial electrification, and make large new energy users pay the entire cost of their energy needs with emissions-free sources. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Melissa Colano.
Yes, good morning. I'm Melissa Colono. I live in Denver and I'm an Xcel customer. As someone who is deeply concerned about the impact of burning fossil fuels, I'm thrilled that Xcel is going to be closing the Pueblo plant by 2031 and replacing that lost energy with renewables. My whole family, including my 3 children, live in Colorado. We love our local community and we also enjoy spending time in nature. However, We worry a great deal about the impact of poor air quality on our family's health. There are so many days in Colorado where it's not safe to be outside, and the number of air quality alert days increases every year. However, I try to maintain confidence in our state and local lawmakers and officials to protect us from known health risks. I know everyone listening in today on this meeting has a family and wants to make the best choices possible for them and their health. In this case, luckily, the best choice for our health is also the most economical choice for Xcel and for the customers paying their energy bills. Wind and solar energy are the most cost-effective resources to address Colorado's growing energy needs. Combined with battery storage, they can provide continuous, reliable power that meets demand even when the sun's not shining or the wind isn't blowing. I am definitely not an energy expert, so I'm not here to speak to the technical details of Xcel's plans. However, I do understand that Xcel is proposing 12 to 14 gigawatts of new energy to replace the Pueblo plant, which I understand is less than 1 gigawatt. So I have solar panels on my house. I have an electric car, an electric stove, an electric water heater. Like within my house, I can see how the electrifying things changes our energy needs. And I understand the importance of electrifying everything in terms of homes and buildings to transition away from fossil fuels. But this electrifying everything doesn't take 12 gigawatts more energy. And so as a resident and Xcel customer, I want our lights to stay on as much as everybody else, but customers should not be expected to fund large data centers that are not even built yet. If politicians and business leaders decide they want to attract data centers to our state, actually that will give us a real opportunity to be a leader in responsible building and energizing using renewables. So in closing, I urge the committee to prioritize plans that put public health above business interests and hold Xcel accountable to their stated goals of transitioning away from fossil fuels. As an Xcel customer, I don't want to be charged for building gas power plants that I don't want. I believe in our leaders to do right by Coloradans through energy efficient policies, renewable energy plants, and this will let Xcel replace the energy lost from the Pueblo plant and add energy to power the electrification we need across our state. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris Hoffman.
Thank you. My name is Chris Hoffman. I live in Boulder and I'm a customer of Xcel. I thank you very much, commissioners, for this opportunity to comment today. I'd like to preface my remarks with news from a recent headline story in The Guardian. It turns out that the overwhelming majority of people in the world, between 80 and 89%, according to a growing number of peer-reviewed scientific studies, want their governments to take stronger climate action. Your decisions here at the PUC about energy in Colorado are on the front lines of translating that desire into results. I'll summarize my requests. Other speakers have spoken or will speak in more detail about these points. So first, please do not support nuclear. Please do not allow Xcel to overbuild on data centers. Please do not make large investments in transmission that may not withstand extreme weather. Local solar and storage may be more expensive upfront, but will likely be the best long-term investment. Please do ensure that increased loads are shifted towards daytime use. Please do minimize the acquisition of new gas turbines. We already have over 1 billion in stranded coal assets. Let's not allow the same thing to happen with gas. Please do recognize that outages have serious costs, and please account for those costs. The Commission should start to account for the costs of outages, for example, by considering the value of lost load, and use those costs to help increase generation and storage resources that are closer to loads and less likely to suffer from failures of the transmission and distribution system. And please do support just transition payments for Craig and Hayden. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Meg Reed. There you are.
Hello, sorry. My name is Meg Reed, and I'm speaking as an Xcel customer. As we discuss Colorado's energy future without the Pueblo coal plant, we have a great opportunity to create a vision that checks all the boxes. A power supply that does not require years to develop, as it's already online and at scale. It poses no danger to the environment of our beautiful state, and it does not saddle utility customers with a crushing payback over decades. Renewables like wind and solar are truly the win-win answer to the question, what next after coal? Battery storage is the one weak link, but it's still much more within reach than options like small modular nuclear reactors, say. These reactors are still a relative question mark with capital intensive and emerging technology currently in use only in Russia and China. We likely will never get an accurate picture of their efficacy and safety, as both countries have an abysmal record of caring for their citizens' health and safety, or of transparency and disaster analysis. Another huge problem with nuclear energy is what to do with the waste. There currently is no solution except to store it. And if you wouldn't want a nuclear waste storage facility in your backyard, it would be wrong to assign it to someone else's backyard, even if, or especially if, you're paying them to take it. Because we need a large amount of power ASAP, it just makes sense to expand what is already working well, while also improving battery storage capabilities for 24/7 availability. Wind and solar are stable sources, avoiding the volatility of gas and oil. The predictable low cost is the right choice to protect us consumers, and its unmatched safety record is the right choice to protect our state's precious environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Heidi Leithwood.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you so much for hearing comment today. I'm Heidi Leithwood, Climate Policy Analyst for 350 Colorado. We're a grassroots organization with 20,000 members working locally on the global threat of climate change. We have members in Pueblo and other coal plant communities and in Xcel ratepayer communities. We submitted a written comment on April 10th and intend to submit another written comment now that the answer testimony has been filed. I personally am an Xcel ratepayer in Denver, and I have friends who live in Pueblo. 350 Colorado shares the concerns highlighted by other groups that nuclear energy and gas plants with carbon capture will pollute Pueblo and will raise rates for Xcel's customers elsewhere. We're opposed to allowing Xcel to charge ratepayers for a slush fund, basically a blank check. We want Pueblo to have revenue replaced, and renewable energy, such as outlined in the Energy Park report by Energy Innovation, is a way of doing that. We support equal revenue replacement for Craig and Hayden. It is possible to power the world, including Colorado, completely with renewables. I have a 101-page document with abstracts of 100 peer-reviewed studies that support that statement, which I will submit along with our next written comment. IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, has a 2024 report that analyzes 5 scenarios for 1.5 degrees Celsius, including 100% renewable energy scenarios, as well as scenarios that do use a limited amount of fossil fuels. They conclude that it is possible to mitigate climate change, and it's economically and socially beneficial to do this by transitioning to renewable energy. The 3 100% renewable energy scenarios show that a fully 100% renewable system will be more socioeconomically and environmentally beneficial, efficient, and cost-effective compared to the net zero alternatives that include fossil fuels and nuclear. They also found that the 100% renewable systems created more jobs. Their recommendations reflect that along with 100% renewable energy efficiency and flexible, decentralized, distributed energy are essential. So today I'm asking the Commission to take a very critical look at Xcel's proposals and assumptions. Evidence in our written comment supports our request that you do not take it as a given that their assumptions about load growth are accurate. We also need to ask ourselves, how can we reduce load even further? Not only expanding renewables, but also reducing energy use is absolutely necessary to achieve climate goals. Excel does not credit energy efficiency and distributed energy resources as having the cost reduction and energy savings potential we know they can have. We are counting on you to hold them accountable and to ask them to do something that is not in their own interest, but in the interest of Coloradans, namely to build less stuff, to incorporate distributed energy resources and help customers use less energy. Thank you again for your time today.
Thank you. Mr. Kevin Cross.
Yes, hello, good morning, commissioners. My name is Kevin Cross, and I'm the convener and one of 6 spokespeople for the Colorado Coalition for a Livable Climate, or CCLC. The CCLC is composed of 54 organizations across the state of Colorado dedicated to developing and advocating for policies that reduce greenhouse gas pollution to levels supportive of a livable climate. I am a resident of Fort Collins, which receives electricity from the Platte River Power Authority, or PRPA. For the past year or so, a committee of the CCLC has been trying to prevent the PRPA from building a new gas plant, which would increase its existing gas generation capacity by over 50%. At the moment, it appears that we have lost that fight up here. We believe that a just transition to renewable should lean into storage technologies, not the latest gas turbine technology. Municipal governments in northern Colorado were told that the new gas plant could be converted to hydrogen someday, without being provided with any cost for making that conversion. And the fact that burning hydrogen in the new turbines would produce as much or more NOx as is produced by the existing gas turbines received little to no acknowledgement by the PRPA. We believe that the PRPA's new gas plant is very likely to become a stranded asset in the next 10 to 20 years. We would hate to see the PUC allow PSCO to make the same mistake on a much larger scale. When considering plans to build new gas plants, we would ask that you do 4 things. First, consider whether existing gas plants could meet most anticipated loads until long-duration storage has been proven to work and is available at scale. Second, consider the impacts of extracting the gas required to operate the new gas plants on air quality and public health. That's something that got totally ignored up here in northern Colorado. Require detailed estimates, 3, for the costs of converting the new gas plants to hydrogen someday. We anticipate that those would be prohibitively high. And 4, consider the impacts of burning hydrogen in any new gas plants on air quality and public health. Let's make sure we don't repeat the same mistakes that were made earlier during the century statewide and more recently by PRPA in northern Colorado by overinvesting in fossil fuel generating resources. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Ms. Kirsten Schatz.
Hello, good morning. I guess we're just barely still in the morning here. Thank you for this public
12
hearing.
minutes.
Yeah, just under the wire. Thanks for this public hearing and the opportunity to speak. My name is Kirsten Schatz, and I'm the Clean Air Advocate for CoPERG. We're a statewide consumer watchdog organization. I am here to ask the Commission to ensure that the replacement plan for the Xcel Energy Comanche coal-fired power units is focused on renewable energy. It sounds like a common theme here among the comments so far, but we want this replacement plan to be focused on renewable energy such as wind, solar, and geothermal, coupled with battery technology and energy efficiency measures. Please do not approve new gas power generation. The goal right now should be to replace fossil fuel electricity with renewables as quickly as possible and have enough extra capacity to electrify vehicles and our homes. We know that electrifying transportation in our homes has a lot of benefits. It uses much more efficient technology. It's better for indoor air quality, outdoor air quality, and therefore our health. Any plan to get there has to start with conservation. The more we can cut energy waste and reduce how much energy we need to produce in the first place through energy efficiency measures, the less new stuff we need to build, and the more quickly we can replace gas and coal with renewable energy. Xcel's testimony from the fall indicates that to meet the growth in electric vehicles and cleaner homes, by 2031, we need about 4 to 5 new gigawatts of energy. And in their preferred options that they mentioned in the fall, they indicated they could add about 10 gigawatts just of solar and wind. more than enough to cover what we need, especially with the incredible advances in battery and storage that we have seen and will continue to see that can make these renewable sources go even further. When it comes to going even bigger so that we can add large loads like data centers, COPERG advises that the PUC does not approve Excel's plan for adding additional capacity in this docket for large loads such as data centers. There are just too many questions that need to be answered around energy use, water use, cost to consumers. All of that needs to be answered before Colorado approves a big increase in energy capacity for these large loads. From a consumer perspective, we believe that replacing this coal-fired power plant with renewables versus gas is the right path as well. The cost of renewable energy is competitive with gas, and gas power has that fuel cost that is just so volatile and driven by many factors outside our control, whereas renewables such as wind and solar have no fuel costs and are not subject to that price volatility. We understand that the Commission must consider the impact of any proposal specifically on Pueblo. On that note, we have submitted into the docket 2,074 petitions from Coloradans, mostly from Pueblo, and a letter from 53 businesses, again, mostly from Pueblo, in favor of a renewable energy solution over new gas power generation. We gathered these petitions and letter sign-ons from businesses by talking one-on-one with thousands of Pueblo residents and businesses. Through a combination of energy efficiency measures and new wind, solar, and battery and storage, we can ensure that this plan replaces a coal-fired power plant with 100% renewables and no new gas, but also adds new capacity for the electrification of vehicles and homes. And we hope that that will be the focus of the Commission over the next few months. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Julian Guevara. Oh, Mr.
Hello, good morning, commissioners. My name is Julian Guevara, and I'm speaking today as a Latino community organizer, an advocate for environmental justice with Mi Familia en Acción. While I'm not a resident of Pueblo, I stand in solidarity with the people of Pueblo, many of whom have suffered decades of pollution from the Comanche coal plant while bearing little of the economic benefit. Latino communities across Colorado, like those in Pueblo, have too often been treated as sacrifice zones, expected to bear the brunt of polluting industries while decision makers prioritize corporate interests over public health and community well-being. We have an opportunity today to break that cycle. The future of Pueblo's energy economy should not be built on unproven, high-risk nuclear technology that could saddle working families with sky-high energy costs and long-term radioactive waste concerns. We've seen in other states that nuclear facilities provide relatively few long-term jobs once construction ends, and those jobs often require highly specialized skills that do not match the training or needs of the local workforce. Latino families in Pueblo deserve the same energy security and affordability as communities across Colorado. That means rejecting costly nuclear and fossil fuel projects and committing to a just transition powered by renewables. Rather than gambling on expensive and risky nuclear technology, Pueblo has a far better option: the creation of an energy park. By investing in solar, wind, and battery storage, Pueblo can build a clean energy hub that delivers reliable power, creates good local jobs, and strengthens the economy without endangering public health. These are proven technologies that can be deployed quickly and affordably, offering real benefits to the community now, not decades from now. The energy park would be a model for how communities can transition away from coal while protecting both the environment and the economic future. Pueblo has given enough. Now is the time to build a clean energy future that truly benefits its residents, not just big utilities and private investors. I urge the Commission to stand with the people of Pueblo and reject nuclear energy as a false solution and consider alternative renewable solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie Geeson.
Hi. Oh, bad lighting. Good morning, Commission, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today as a Coloradoan and as an Excel customer who is deeply concerned about the future of our state. As you all know, Pueblo is an important part of Colorado, not only because of its rich history, but also because of the people who currently live there. My husband did field work outside of Pueblo when he worked for the federal government, and we visited there for various reasons over the years, to see a Hungarian folk band and to enjoy the restaurants along the Riverwalk, for example. Economic revitalization is a real concern for the over 100,000 people who live there, and they deserve to have a long-term solution, one that provides good, consistent jobs both now and in the future. Solar and wind provide those jobs with proven technologies. Further, as our energy demands grow and data centers are built, tax breaks should not be given to these developers and these billionaires. Tax breaks should be reserved for renewable energy that doesn't add pollution, and they should be for local businesses that keep the money in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jessica Hamilton.
Hello, commissioners, and coming in under the wire with a good morning still. My name's Jessica Hamilton. I'm an Excel customer in Fort Collins, and I've lived here in Colorado my whole life. I have a family to look after, and like basically everyone these days, I'm keeping track of every dollar in our budget, and I'm worried about energy costs. I'm also deeply worried about the polluted air we're all breathing all up and down the Front Range, and I'm worried about the future we've created for kids like my 7-year-old daughter. So for those reasons, I'm deeply grateful that Excel and this commission are planning a just transition to close the Comanche coal plant. Now we must make sure we're prioritizing renewable energy for all of our growing electricity needs. As others have alluded to today, one of the primary tools our society has for addressing climate change is to electrify everything, which means we now need a lot more electricity. And of course, we're all learning we also need more electricity for the data center boom. But that electrification strategy for handling the climate crisis only works if that electricity is coming from clean, renewable sources. Luckily for all of us, the use of renewables also reduces harmful air pollution and keeps costs down for ratepayers like me. Renewable energy is not only the environmentally responsible choice, but also the most economical one. Wind, solar, and battery storage are the least expensive technologies for new power generation, according to the Lazard 2024 Levelized Cost of Energy report. Now, when it comes to data centers, it is not this commission's job to pass laws that regulate tech companies, but there are state legislatures in this country that are already proving that tech companies can be required to pay for additional clean energy to power their data centers, thus protecting the grid and ratepayers from the demand created by their operations. And this commission does have the power to explore the renewable energy options and energy costs associated with data center build-out. And I urge you to do so to ensure that new demand is met with the lowest cost and cleanest options. This commission should demand a deeper look at Excel's modeling, because what we thought were the energy requirements of AI a few months ago have already changed significantly as the tech gets rapidly more efficient. And Excel's modeling needs to keep up so that this commission can make informed decisions based on the latest information, not on outdated speculation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Sierra Fernandez Faber. Ms. Lisa Rosentusky.
Hello, commissioners and fellow voices on this topic. I'm probably the lone dissenter of this team. Mark Twain once said, "It's easier to fool people than convince them they have been fooled." Closing coal plants and fossil fuels is not the answer. There's over 300 years of coal in our earth, on the earth. The people of the world have been experiencing climate shame by the tyranny of the few. Why? At times it is the benefit of the earth and technology advances, but at times it feels like the proverbial, the sky is falling, we must act now or the world's going to end. Doomsday prophecies about the earth have stated for thousands of years. So far, the world is still here, and yet the tyranny of the few still pontificate humans are killing the earth, and it will not survive, as if humans were that effective. The climate has been changing for millions of years and will continue to do so. So, how do we, regardless of politics, work together to manage making the planet healthier and not vilify fossil fuels through climate change? The grassroots mobilization for environmental protection that led to the first Earth Day in 1970 was built on nearly a century of efforts to address contamination of water, air, and land caused by industrialization and urbanization. Today, there are 30,359 environmental organizations in the United States. Combined, these environmental organizations employ 134,250 people, earn more than 27 billion in revenue, and have assets of 72 billion. That is quite an industry. The industry creates climate public opinion through the media, causing climate rage that is not always based on facts. The results have included people attempting to destroy works of art, laying in the street, causing massive traffic standstill, all to save the planet, which causes more chaos. I believe most people are environmental at heart. I have not experienced anyone who does not support the wise use of Earth's resources. However, I have also observed in the last 20 years the tyranny of the few vilifying Americans' energy use and, in fact, jeopardizing reliable energy delivery through misinformation that the Earth is either cooling or warming beyond anything in history, causing irreversible catastrophic impacts. The best example is when Al Gore misrepresented data and terrified people that the Arctic Sea would be completely gone by 2014. Like so many previous soothsayers, Mr. Gore lives a lavish lifestyle and does not blink an eye when traveling by plane or indulging in 11,000 square foot homes that are not 100% solar. The good news is the Arctic Sea is live and well, and so are polar bears. Climate does not change, as if you review any historical documents, one observes whole societies had to leave areas due to famine, floods, lack of wildlife, or drought. However, like nomads before us, we cannot move cities and farms to allow the cyclical nature of climate change. In an interview, Dr. Willie Soon observed global temperatures have dramatically fluctuated for as long as humans have left records. Please read the records. There are cities underwater because sea levels have risen within recorded history, and Dr. Soon stated CO2 is nothing and that cannot cause the climate to change. It doesn't change anything, actually, it's the sun. In fact, concrete and asphalt raise temperatures more than CO2. Dr. Soon went on to say that the whole problem with climate science these days is related to how science is funded. Science must be funded with no strings attached to achieve healthy debate and truthful data. Therefore, fossil fuels are not the enemy. Should we continue exploring renewables, integrate into our energy use? Absolutely, but not at the expense of fossil fuels that, unlike renewables, are 24/7. They are reliable, their efficiency factor is the highest compared to renewables. I will also stress that renewables do have natural resource harvesting and environmental impacts that are conveniently not brought up. And the materials used to create the products, such as solar panels, wind turbines, geothermal, and battery storage, are sometimes worse than the cure. Regulations and legislative mandates can make or break an industry, but ultimately impact the consumers. I've heard a lot about the price. Colorado's oil and gas industry has spent years and millions of dollars staying in compliance with ever-changing regulatory landscape. Thus, state and federal legislative virtue signaling is not the answer for consumers, especially since consumers are paying ever-increasing utility bills. Have you ever seen a legislative bill that actually had a return on investment? I would love to see it. What is real right now? Works immediately are the simplest of efforts, such as don't pollute. I live in the mountains and I see water bottles all over the place on the ground. Conservation, a woman brought up conservation. I couldn't agree with her more on conservation. Recycle, ride the bus and bike, and most importantly, teach people how energy is produced. And if people understood it, that they would deliver the delivery in the ecosystem we have, I believe technological advances would be abundant. In conclusion, in the immortal words of George Carlin, the planet has been here 4.5 billion years. We've been here, what, 100,000, 200,000? And we've been engaged in heavy industry for a little over 200 years. 200 years versus 4.5 billion. And we have the conceit to think that somehow we are the threat. That somehow we're going to put in jeopardy this beautiful little blue-green ball that's just been floating around the sun. The planet has been through a lot worse. Thanks everyone for your time, and I hope it was entertaining.
Thank you. Ms. Sierra Fernandez Faber.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Ciara Fernandez Faber. I am from Denver, and I am a mother of a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. My 7-year-old son is currently learning about birds at school, and especially how polluted the air and the water, how polluted air and water is affecting their habitats. He doesn't understand why we would do anything to harm them. He has his own personal plans to plant more trees, and he wants to ask people not to use pesticides. I try to highlight the positive changes that are happening in our community. For instance, I am really optimistic about the state's leadership in promoting and implementing renewable energy. And I was relieved to hear that the Comanche coal plant would be retired decades ahead of schedule. As electrical demands grow, we have the opportunity to make a just transition with long-term gains. It is not enough to meet the needs of the moment with incremental changes, like gradually phasing out coal and gas. That is effectively putting a Band-Aid on an internal wound. Nor is it safe or economical to drastically overhaul our energy needs with untested and high-risk nuclear facilities. Xcel Energy, of which I've been a customer for 2 decades, should prioritize integrating wind, solar, and geothermal use into their long-term energy plans. They are cheaper, faster, easier, cleaner, and more reliable. I often drive south through Pueblo and across this naturally beautiful and abundant state regularly to visit family in northern New Mexico. And the potential for solar and wind power in particular are boldly apparent. 300 plus days of sunshine and high wind corridors make this state the perfect frontier for a sustainable new future, one that I am personally committed to as a mother of young children. Thank you again.
Thank you. Mr. Scott Hatfield.
Yeah, I have some concerns about Xcel incentives being counterproductive to climate goals that the state has, as well as more localized goals. There should be no new gas plants in the plan. There's ways to get around that to meet the ramp up loads that happen generally late afternoon. There needs to be a lot more emphasis on load shifting as well as demand response. You could probably, I think you could use robust demand response to eliminate the need for most of these new gas plants, especially if you combine it with more virtual power plants, more realistic load forecasts, distributed energy resources as well. There's really no need for new gas or new nukes. These are promoted primarily, I believe, by the perverse incentive for Xcel Energy to invest as much money as possible for a guaranteed rate of return. This is a strong incentive to have abandoned assets in the future. That's probably what's going to happen with any new gas or any new nukes. It's totally counterproductive to our climate goals. The nukes they're going to have waste that's going to be on site indefinitely. There's no central repository. Much of that demand is projected from data centers. Data centers are becoming a lot more efficient. So there's this perverse incentive to drastically overbuild resources to produce new electricity. This just helps Xcel make more money. So you overbuild it, and then you have way too much electricity, and this is going to destroy all our work for energy efficiency. And that's a lot of work there across the board. So I think the state needs to be a little bit more accommodating of these other concerns that don't just waste our climate future. Thank you.
Thank you. Velma Campbell.
Hello, commissioners and everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to comment today. I am a medical doctor from Pueblo, specializing in public health, and I'm speaking today as an individual, although I'm a member of a number of environmental organizations and public health organizations, and I've been an activist for environmental justice and social justice for many years. As you know, Pueblo and the surrounding area has long been burdened by pollution and health issues, as well as low income, in spite of, or perhaps because of, our strong industrial legacy. Our community, like other EJ communities, has a right to prosper in the growing renewable energy economy, especially in view of our natural and infrastructure resources. The renewable energy economy can meet the needs of our community for a healthy environment and a healthy economy with union jobs and ample property taxes, if they are not undermined by false solutions such as nuclear, large-scale hydrogen, and/or gas with carbon capture. Certainly, overestimating demand and deliberately building stranded assets like gas plants should be unacceptable and are obvious false solutions. Just transitions payments for Pueblo and the other coal-impacted communities we've heard from today should reflect the tax revenues and economic losses resulting from those changes, at least until replacement is accomplished. Regarding JTS issues specifically for Pueblo, I am requesting that the PUC direct Xcel or Public Service Co. to designate such funds as are required to evaluate, plan, and implement a renewable energy replacement hub, including generation, storage, and transmission on the site or somewhere in our region of the current Pueblo generating station and related properties. In addition, they should be instructed to plan and implement accommodation for industries desiring and able to develop in proximity to energy and heat generation that they can use for operations. I encourage review of the possibility that the sale of energy generated and used on properties owned by Public Service Co. /Xcel should not be limited by the current Black Hills franchise monopoly over Pueblo, as exceptions already exist for Everest Corporation. This type of arrangement could make generation and local load use much more economically viable and profitable. Proposals are already in circulation, for example, for an energy park, and also a DC transmission line is another project that's under consideration. I appreciate the opportunity to comment and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for joining us. Ms. Julie Zonheiser.
Thank you. Hello, commissioners. My name's Julie Zahniser, and I want to thank you for this hearing and also thank you for being Public Utilities Commissioners. You have a really difficult job, and I appreciate your work. I'm a grandmother recently and retired speech pathologist and Excel customer. Unlike many in Pueblo, I grew up in relative privilege, not worrying about playing outside in polluted air at risk of asthma or other health effects. I appreciate the experts who will and are detailing the hazards to the Pueblo community of continued investment in keeping the unreliable Pueblo 3 coal plant operating until the very last possible minute, as well as extreme risks, expense, and climate mitigation delays of any type of nuclear energy in Pueblo, no matter how small. The question I would like to ask you is this: how would your community feel if a highly profitable, politically powerful, multi-state utility approached your city or county leaders with presentations of unproven technologies, promises of uncertain number of jobs, and no plan to securely manage nuclear waste or potentially escaping captured carbon from new fossil gas, and likely reduced water resources in counties where you live, while having generated power shipped off to Denver? I don't think your communities or mine would support this. This should not happen in Pueblo either. There are safer, cheaper, and more readily available options in solar, wind, geothermal, and storage, as well as encouraging daytime energy use and having distributed energy resources developed elsewhere. The Pueblo steel plant already relies on a significant part on solar power. The mentioned Pueblo Renewable Energy Park could be started immediately, could train and hire locally, expand over time, and adding innovative solutions when available. This is a historic moment. We're all worried about our country. There was never a more important time for regulators like you to stand up to corporate pressure, to take the long view, and to put people and planet before profits. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Mr. Scott Miller.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Am I live? Can you hear me?
We can see and hear you.
Excellent. Thanks for taking the public comments, and like Julie before me said, doing a great job in engaging with the public on all these very difficult issues. My name is Scott Miller. I'm an Excel customer living in Gun Barrel neighborhood of Boulder County. I've got 2 kids enrolled in BVSD. I have a technology background and have recently shifted my full-time focus to climate change and energy, and I'm learning a ton about the topic. I'm here to ask you to force Excel to be more thorough and transparent about investment options that might be best for Pueblo and Colorado, even if those options aren't best for Excel's financial profits. First, please do not rely on nuclear power to replace coal. Nuclear costs remain high compared to solar and wind plus storage, and the technology for SMRs is not yet proven. Please require Excel to evaluate energy parks similar to the proposals for Pueblo. Second, please do not allow Excel to justify building new gas plants and transmission lines to meet the demands of global corporations' data centers. These data centers should benefit Colorado, accelerate the state's path to zero emissions, and decrease electricity rates for residential and commercial customers, rather than the opposite. Please require Excel to detail options for data centers that benefit all of Colorado. Third, please require Excel to provide a detailed cost-benefit analysis comparing the deployment of distributed local energy resources such as solar, battery storage, plus demand-side management to building new fossil fuel gas plants and transmission lines. Deploying a combination of local energy resources and utility-scale renewable energy plants may be more effective financially and for reliability than adding the gas plants. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Scott Larson.
Good afternoon. I'm not sure if I can start my video, so yeah, I guess I can. So I'll introduce myself. My wife and I and our family has now grown up, have been 30-year part-time residents of Route County, Colorado, and we love the area, and I have retired now. My wife and I are soon to become nearly full-time residents in Route County, Colorado. And we've driven by the power plant in Hayden numerous times to fly back and forth, and we usually drive there. And I want to make the following comments. I had not intended to speak, mostly wanted to listen, but given Ms. Rontoski's, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Ritnoski's comments, I can't help but have to emphasize what she had to say. And I had, in fact, listened to, and if you haven't ever listened to and you have a sense of humor, I would encourage you to listen to George Carlin's comments and stand-up comedy called Save the Planet. This planet has been around through divine intervention longer than we can imagine. And to think that we can possibly, as a human species, bring it to its knees in the course of 200 years of the Industrial Revolution, I think is a bit egotistical and reflecting self-importance. I am indeed a supporter. I'm a physician. I'm based on objective evidence, and I understand logic and reason. And I grew up in the 70s and went to college, and we saw the predictions of the ice age that was coming when I grew up in the 70s, and there was great consternation about the ice ages. And indeed, former vice president said the polar bears are going to drown when their little pool of ice melts. That did not happen. So there's a lot of hyperbole here, but I do indeed respect and do want to promote the health of the planet. However, I think there needs to be a deliberate consideration of the cost of the alternatives as well as the reliability. We have a home in Route County, Colorado, and have experienced power outages. Route County, Colorado, if you don't know, and I'm sure you do, experiences extreme cold weather and high snowfall. I'm really curious about the reliability of solar energy in the context of the heavy snowfall, 300 plus inches at a minimum each year in Route County. I'm also concerned about the cost of reliable energy alternatives. I've yet to see an example of where alternative energies have come in to be more affordable than traditional fossil fuels. I'll also mention that this country is buying dirty coal from other countries simply because of prior administration's policy on coal. Clean coal energy has arrived. I also live in Michigan, as I mentioned before, and the Palisades plant is about to be reopened. It might take 2 or 3 years, but there are great examples across the planet of small nuclear facilities that can be reopened and be climate sensitive for energy production in an efficient manner. Lastly, I want to comment on the storage piece, because when my son was in middle school, I helped him write a paper about Yucca Mountain. You've heard of Yucca Mountain. Well, it still isn't approved for disposal and storage of radioactive materials. So I challenge the people of the future in thinking about safety for the planet to say how we can consolidate all these batteries that have all sorts of trace minerals and a risk to the public and the groundwater in some meaningful fashion. Right now, who knows how they're being disposed of. There's no coordination of it. And the risk to the planet of these storage batteries, I say to you that it is equal to the risk of radioactive material and needs coordination of its disposal and maintenance long-term. So I'm fine with renewable energy. I don't want to not be able to heat my house when it doesn't work. And I don't want another example of Texas when people's homes were destroyed because they couldn't have a power grid that had backup. Final comment. We put in a Generac for this very reason. Who knows how long propane will be available? But the person that put it in said, you know what they ought to do with Hayden? They ought to make it a generator backup. They ought to make it a Generac. They ought to make it easily brought up online again in the case of power failure from renewable wind and solar. Those are my comments. I thank you for the opportunity. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks for joining us. Ms. Mary Pettigrew.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to comment today. My name is Mary Pettigrew. I'm a small business owner, Excel customer, and a parent in Boulder who is distressed about the climate situation. But I also honestly view this as the clean and equitable solutions available now are really opportunities to address this monumental challenge in a way that could vastly improve our collective future. Unfortunately, political will, which often translates to financial power, is so often a limiting factor in terms of our adoption of sane solutions. In Pueblo, it sure seems like the same situation is at play. Here, this community that has been the recipient of pollution from Pueblo Unit 3, a coal-fired power plant that should never have been built, and that has been plagued with issues that Excel continues to pour money into. And as an aside, I would love to please take this opportunity to request that you not approve any additional expenses on that power plant. Pueblo doesn't even benefit from the power produced by the polluting plant in their backyard. Now, as Pueblo Unit 3 is set to retire, not soon enough, in my opinion, the powers that be are promoting enormous capital-intensive solutions like nuclear. And of course, that's the most lucrative way for them to secure future profits. For background on nuclear, I would recommend numerous webinars on the topic sponsored by the Colorado Renewable Energy Society, Physicians for Social Responsibility, Green Latinos, 350 Colorado, and more. Nuclear power is not a viable solution in light of its cost, the time it takes to build, the fact that it is not a nimble and responsive source of power, and of course, that pesky problem of what to do with the waste. Please consider seriously the concept that has been proposed in the Energy Innovation Report called Energy Parks, a new strategy to meet rising electricity demand. This is from 2024 in December, and outlines how places like Pueblo appear to be optimal, and I quote, to integrate multiple renewable energy sources, storage solutions like batteries, and potentially co-located electricity consumers, such as manufacturing facilities or data centers, all connected to the grid at a single point. It goes on to say, we are on the precipice of a huge clean energy economic opportunity that policymakers and utilities can seize by opening their regulatory and legislative forums to energy parks and the stakeholders eager to invest in their states and communities. Personally, I feel the investor-owned utility has outlived its useful life. It is absurd, in my opinion, if we care about responding adequately to climate change, that we would continue to have utility profits be part of the equation. I realize there's work to be done at the legislature, but I really appreciate your thinking, commissioners, about how to shift the system from one that incentivizes utilities to pursue capital-intensive projects instead of non-wire, distributed resources, and speed our clean energy transition. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dominic Nacarado.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you. I'm Dominique Nacarado, speaking today on behalf of myself as an elected council person for the city of Salida, Colorado. Thank you for taking comments today on Excel's Just Transition solicitation. Salida is a small, vibrant community that has committed to achieving net zero carbon energy use by the year 2050. Our residents are eager for clean energy choices. Currently, there's even a waiting list for Excel's Renewables Connect program, demonstrating our strong demand for renewable solutions. Climate change is already affecting Salida. We are experiencing increased wildfire risks and changing weather patterns which threaten our tourism-based economy, including our snowpack and our whitewater rafting industry. We also experience economic strain during peak tourism seasons due to Xcel power outages. One recent outage during a major summer festival prevented local businesses from using their credit card machines, adversely impacting our small business economy. Given these realities, I'm concerned that Xcel's proposed plan includes building new gas plants. Gas plants emit greenhouse gases and localized air pollution, which threaten community health and undermine our climate goals. They are also expensive to build and operate, locking communities like ours into costly infrastructure that may become obsolete as Colorado moves forward towards 100% clean energy by 2040. Salida has been an active participant in Xcel's Partners in Energy program, dedicating significant time and resources to develop and implement a community-driven energy action plan. Including new natural gas infrastructure in the Just Transition Plan undermines these collaborative efforts and the investments we've made towards a sustainable energy future. Instead of investing in new fossil fuel infrastructure, I urge Xcel and the Commission to prioritize local clean energy projects and innovate battery storage and grid resilience that will help communities like Salida meet our goals. Investments in wind, solar, geothermal, and storage will maximize emissions reductions, protect ratepayers, and truly support a just transition. I respectfully request that the Commission avoid construction of new gas plants, expand clean energy choice programs for residents and businesses, invest in local renewable energy and storage to strengthen grid resilience, and protect ratepayers from future stranded asset risks. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for joining us today. Mr. John Spezia.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
My name is John Spezia, and I've lived in Routt County for 52 years. I have a really good idea of what the winter is like and the summer are like. I have solar panels on my house that provide most of our electricity for the last 13 years, and we're moving towards air pumps, which work really well in this climate. I have a background in meteorology and a master's degree, and I've taught at CMC 15 years of that particular topic, and have used the snow lab on top of the mountain to gather data and inform my students on what's going on. In the 1990s, I used to teach both sides of the climate question, but after a number of years, I ran out of accurate, true data that suggests there was no climate change. So my next 15 years was to provide the correct data and also deal with disinformation by giving my students the information that's correct and let them make their own choice. One thing that's really interesting to me is I've been on the working group for transportation in our climate action plan in Routt County for a number of years. And we're doing pretty good with trying to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide, but I'm not sure how well we're doing. In terms of natural gas, it still is a greenhouse gas. It still produces methane, and its carbon footprint is just as big as CO2. In terms of nuclear, again, we have no way to dispose of it. Its lifespan of 100,000 years. So we've got to look at that aspect of it. We got to think about what we leave in the future. Many folks are talking about coal power plants being stranded assets. Natural gas turbines will be the same way, and we'll be paying for them for a long time. What we should focus on is batteries, wind, solar, and geothermal. And what's really nice about geothermal is many of the skills that the employees at the power plant and at the mines we can use for geothermal. The biggest problem right now is the gap between installing them and digging the holes to provide geothermal. So here's a great transition possibility, especially in Craig, to educate a few group of people there so that they can make that transition of those folks who can put the geothermal in the ground and transform it into the houses. Here's a potential for a new future in terms of transition. And lastly, I'm a big recycler, and I love to do that, but just recycling is nibbling at the edges of climate change. The lady may be right in the fact that the Earth will survive climate change, and it has, but we as humans and our whole culture and infrastructure will not survive at the rate we're going right now. So I really appreciate what you folks are doing. And I really appreciate the time you're taking to listen to us because there's many ideas. But the most important thing is we communicate with each other. So many of the disinformation and misinformation that you hear is not passed on and considered the truth. Data, as a scientist and a teacher in geology and oceanography and meteorology, realize they're all connected. We must educate the truth and the actual data so people can come away understanding. So I encourage conversation with those who disagree with you and trying to integrate that into educating each other to different kinds of opinions so we get to the truth and as a community solve all these problems. Thank you very much for your time. Bye now.
Thank you. Mr. Scott Larson, our third Scott in a few minutes. Mr. Larson. I don't see any more hands up.
I think he already talked.
Oh, all right. My bad. I don't see any more hands up. Would anybody else like to speak? Ms. Amanda Perkins.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Afternoon.
Oh, yes, good afternoon. You're right. So my name is Amanda Perkins, and I serve as the Climate Policy and Implementation Specialist for Adams County. We appreciate the goals of Excel's Just Transition solicitation and recognize the importance of a thoughtful and equitable transition in our energy systems. Adams County supports maximizing the use of renewable energy sources while maintaining a focus on reliability and affordability for ratepayers. We're particularly concerned about proposals to construct new gas-fired electricity generation facilities north of the Denver metro area, as identified in Excel's answered testimony. While we understand the need to maintain and repair existing infrastructure, building new gas plants and associated pipeline represent a significant economic risk. These investments could become stranded assets well before 2050 if Colorado continues to follow the trajectory laid out in the state's greenhouse gas pollution reduction roadmap. Furthermore, as a county located in the ozone non-attainment area, we are acutely aware of and concerned by the environmental and public health impacts of additional fossil fuel combustion. We urge the Commission to consider these impacts carefully when making decisions involving Excel's future energy portfolio. Adams County recognizes that progress in the global, national, and local transition to renewable energy is essential for the environment, economy, and public health. We've demonstrated our commitment by setting a 2030 goal to power 100% of government facilities with renewable energy. We're actively supporting community access to distributed solar and battery storage systems, approving large-scale solar array development, exploring multiple geothermal opportunities, and advancing building decarbonization through participation in regional electrification efforts. Our experience shows that local governments are ready and willing partners in the clean energy transition. We encourage Excel and the Commission to prioritize new renewable energy resources over new fossil fuel generation as we work together towards a cleaner, healthier, and more sustainable Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Leslie Glestrom.
Coming. Hi, Commissioners. Thank you so much for taking this time. We really appreciate it. And I think you can see that there's a lot of eyes on this Just Transition solicitation and that people really care deeply. So the good news is that it's been really well briefed for you, and I'm still not through all the testimony, but I think there is not just this very broad-based public concern about more gas, don't do nuclear, don't do carbon capture and storage, be careful about data centers. You've got a bunch of really great testimony, which you may or may not have had time to get through yet. But I was thinking this morning, it's a little bit like the medical profession where you end up with a really complicated case coming in through to the emergency room or whatever. But the doctors try to remember to do no harm. And I would ask in this case that you bring that same kind of thought process to this. It's really complicated. We really appreciate your work. Thank you all for helping us navigate this transition. And so do no harm. Part of that is to not make big, expensive mistakes. You've heard that we, already have these stranded coal plants. The commissioners before you did not take this kind of thought process. So we have over $1 billion of stranded coal. Let's not do the same thing with gas. The good news is that your PUC staff, your UCA have all given you good. They've said, listen, we could extend the contracts on Plains 1 and 2, on Fountain Valley 1 and 6, on and gas from the 2021 ERP. That's 600 megawatts of gas we can use while we're waiting for long duration storage and thermal batteries and all these other things to come along. We don't need to build new gas plants and make that 40-year commitment to that. So again, that's really well briefed for you. The data center issue is very well briefed. Mr. Iden for WRA and SWEEP, your staff witness Deepu, I think, I'm not quite sure how to say his name, your UCA witnesses, utility consumer advocate witnesses. And the key there is to make sure that the data centers are actually bearing the risk. They put up the capital up front, and then they make take or pay contracts that may require rulemaking on the part of the commission to do, but there's no reason why existing customers should be bearing the risk for these very uncertain loads. Excel's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80% probability scheme has lots of problems. They have data centers that were in a high percentage, and they've already withdrawn their interconnection requests. So, let's go very carefully on data centers. This, as you know, was meant to be, let's replace 500 megawatts for Pueblo Unit 3. And now all of a sudden we're looking at 14,000 or more megawatts of possible, oh, no, thank you. And I would like to say that with the strategic, now I've forgotten the full name, the SRRF, the 500 million, please don't do that. Excel had 782 million of after-tax net income from Colorado. We don't need to let them have $500 million to go out and buy a bunch of gas turbines that we shouldn't be building and transformers. If they want to do that, they can take the risk. If they're going to earn over 9% on their equity, we should not also be putting the risk for this complicated supply chain situation onto customers. So, and then you've also heard quite a bit about being careful about kind of where the siting takes place. We always talk so much about generation adequacy, but most outages are related to transmission and distribution, something in the neighborhood of about 80%. We very seldom, and we've got the over 1,000 megawatt reserve margin. So yes, we obviously need to be thoughtful about generation adequacy, but it's much more important that we start to focus on transmission and distribution and finding ways to reduce our reliance, because that's the weak link in the chain that actually delivers the electricity to load, to customers, to homes, to businesses. And it's going to get worse and worse as extreme weather gets worse. So I wanted to also, as many others have, but just, I think, Energy Innovation has done sort of some preliminary modeling on an energy park that would involve thermal batteries that would allow, I think, actually an actual solution for Pueblo. I refer to nuclear jobs as fantasy jobs. They'd be nice, I suppose. There's all those problems with nuclear, but the chances that they're actually going to materialize are very slim. So please do whatever you can to take the next step forward based on, we've got, Dr. Schlissel's testimony for the Environmental Justice Coalition, and he's attached the energy innovation model. Please do whatever you can to move that forward. It's a very exciting possibility. It allows true economic development for Pueblo as well as the other communities. And it also allows us to start moving large industrial gas loads off of gas and onto electricity. But it's going to require some innovative thinking and some, new ways of approaching this problem. And the last thing I just want to say, I'm supportive of just transition payments for for Moffat County, for Craig and Hayden. I'm not sure about the size, but I think it's only right that whatever it is, it's frankly going to be kind of small potatoes in this. So thanks so much for your work. Try not to do any harm. Don't overreach. We'll have another ERP in just a couple of years, so you don't need to solve all those future problems right now. All that speculative data center load, and also Excel exaggerated the beneficial electrification. Mr. EIDN from VRA has helped you see that. So thanks so much. Appreciate your time as always.
Thank you. Mr. Eric Frankowski.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Thank you again to the Commission for hosting today's public comment hearing and for scheduling a second virtual session after Excel files its final response testimony. As we've seen in just the past few weeks, Excel can drop some huge surprises into the docket, and it's important for the public to have a chance to respond. My name is Eric Frankowski. I'm the Executive Director of the Western Clean Energy Campaign. I traveled to Pueblo and made a statement there, but I will focus on two completely separate topics in my comments today. My first point, on Thursday, you'll be in Hayden to hear from residents of the town and from Routt County. And for the past 60 years, the Hayden power plant has been generating electricity for all of Colorado and has been an economic backbone for both the town and Routt County. Now that the plant is being retired, the residents and communities that will be hurt by the lost jobs and tax revenue deserve the same soft economic landing being offered to other communities where Xcel is closing down coal plants. The Commission should honor the request by Hayden and Routt County officials for $89 million in transition assistance, which will provide a decade of support as they rebuild their post-coal economies. My second point has to do with Xcel's most recent request for an additional slush fund. They've already asked for an unprecedented $100 million of slush fund money, and earlier this month they submitted a surprise proposal to collect up to another $500 million from ratepayers to buy Gossley gas plant and other equipment in advance, whether the Commission ultimately decides it will approve the gas plants or not. To make that request even more arrogant, the company says if it doesn't end up needing the equipment, it will sell it. And if the cost is below market value, customers eat the loss. But if it's sold at a premium, even though Xcel shareholders haven't put any money in the game, they get to keep half the profit, which is just pretty outrageous. These slush fund proposals completely negate the whole intent of the resource planning process in the first place. They give Xcel the ability to do what it wants, charge customers for all of it without an ounce of risk to shareholders. And they bias the resource planning process where projects are finally approved by the PUC because anything the company has spent money on already has a leg up on competitive bidding. The Commission should reject this proposal outright and signal to Xcel never to come back with such skewed and customer-unfriendly proposals in the future. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today and look forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Talco Woods. Ms. Emma Ragona.
Hi, I will be speaking on behalf of Rob Robinson, who couldn't be here today. Is that allowed?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so Rob Robertson, he's a member of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, and he says, "Dear sir or madam, in general, it is the climate crisis that most concerns me. I have two granddaughters that I feel will be distraughtly impacted by increasing extreme weather that will harm them and collapse their well-being. Thank you for adopting climate mitigation policies, and I strongly urge the PUC to continue aggressively addressing the climate crisis. I have a number of comments on the just transition solicitation, but first, the nuclear power reactor proposed near Pueblo. I've experienced working as a mining engineer in nuclear waste isolation. We failed to achieve long-term solution to isolate nuclear waste 3 decades ago, and ever since the waste is accumulating next to the nuclear power plants. In the lifetime of the Just Transition Plan, the likelihood of a solution to isolate nuclear waste is highly doubtful. What's more, nuclear power is not free of carbon emissions. Consider the carbon impacts of mining, the numerous processing steps, transportation, construction, and maintenance of the power plant, and temporary storage of the spent uranium. Further, wind and solar power are much cheaper. I recommend you decline the proposed Pueblo nuclear reactor and tell the proponents not to come back until there is available long-term isolation of the spent uranium. Rather than building out yet more industrial scale power facilities in open spaces and green fields, PUC should require Xcel to install distributed energy resources in built-up areas such as rooftops, parking lots, right-of-ways, and so on. After all, in addition to the climate crisis, Earth is undergoing the 6th greatest extinction of life in its entire 4.5 billion year history. A few years ago, NREL estimated that the nation's rooftops have space enough to generate 40% of the electricity demand. Further, PUC should require that massive data centers generate their own renewable energy, and certainly not at the expense of Xcel customers. Xcel wants $100 million for testing and experimentation of projects. I don't think so. Certainly not unless PUC can veto any of those projects. Not unless Xcel customers are repaid and earn royalties. And not unless lower income customers are protected from paying any increase in their power rates. Of course, if you have any questions regarding my comments, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you. Telka Woods.
Yes, I'm so sorry I couldn't unmute.
No worries.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Regarding 24A-0442E. My name is Telka Woods, current resident of Lakeside Manor Estate, Pueblo County, Colorado, 1/2 mile north of Comanche Power Station. I am a native of Pueblo County. I represent our community of 200 plus residents. We host many land use concerns, such as health issues directly related to renewable energy, toxic runoff of solar panels, wind turbines, and batteries. Batteries are the Wild West of the unknown. A renewable industrial facility would take up huge amounts of our land compared to nuclear. Aesthetics and views are a huge concern. A visual burn scar and wind turbines reaching to the sky would disrupt natural vegetation and wildlife habitat. Our community will suffer greatly for the supply of energy resource for the Front Range communities, not our own. Land stewardship is key and most important when making these decisions. Our land is not meant to foster miles and miles of black glass, metal, high towers, and acres of batteries, covering our beautiful Colorado. Think about the mess and destruction we are leaving our future generations. Fire mitigation is a huge concern when studied previously for an industrial solar facility near our neighborhood. We also want to express our compassionate concern of declined property values when surrounded by a so-called energy park. I leave you with one thought: your community could be next. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Greatly appreciate it. Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken who would like to speak today? Ms. Laura Getz.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laura Getz. I'm a resident of the city of Pueblo, Colorado, where I'm raising 2 young children. I also work in the electricity utility sector, but I'm not speaking on behalf of a utility. I also serve on the state's Just Transition Advisory Committee. I appreciate the work that is going on to try and support the workers and communities impacted in the transition, and appreciate that we're having this hearing today, that this plan exists. So I've followed the PISAC, from Pueblo's perspective, I've followed the PISAC committee work, and just want to verify that that does not speak for the entire community of Pueblo. That committee did not even include a representative from the city of Pueblo, and did not allow for ample community-wide discussion or appointment of a truly diverse set of stakeholders on that committee. I have been participating in Just Transition meetings in our community, and I do believe that there's not a silver bullet, as we would like there to be, for the tax base that we're about to lose here with the closure of Comanche. It is a real crisis for our community. our libraries, our school districts. It will be devastating to Pueblo, and the other communities that are to be impacted. But really speaking from the Pueblo perspective here, I fear, our desperate need for tax revenue at this time, coupled with the loss of these jobs and rapidly increasing utility rates from Black Hills Energy in our community has put us in a very vulnerable position. We've been in this position for quite some time. But I fear what our community is willing to accept in the name of revenue. I think it's extremely important to acknowledge this. And while we're very much in need of revenue, it should not come at a cost, not a cost to the health of our community and our people, or to our reputation. Pueblo, certainly has the reputation of being Pewtown, and we do not want anything to further reinforce this image, which has become quite negative to us from an economic development perspective. We would really like to see Xcel Energy put additional financial resources and energy into a look at helping to diversify Pueblo's economy in a real, concrete, measurable way. That's not just a one-for-one energy generation replacement. Because again, that's the silver bullet. That would be very convenient. But I don't believe it's realistic. And I think we need a more, quite frankly, a more difficult approach. It's not easy to come up with a strong, diversified economic development plan for a community. But I think it's possible, and we need to keep those conversations going, and we need to have Xcel be part of that process and put some concrete resources into some alternatives rather than just looking at what could be a one-for-one generation replacement, because this is a very real, a very dire situation Pueblo is facing with the loss of this tax revenue. So thank you very much for everyone's comments and for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken who would like to speak? Well, for once, the comments matched the time available almost exactly. I just want to thank everybody for coming out. As always, I learned a ton. Appreciate your spending time with us, and it makes the process work. So with that, Commissioner Goen, final thoughts?
Yeah, just appreciate everyone's comments today. Yeah, happy to hear from you all and consider your comments as we move forward.
Commissioner Plant.
Yeah, thank you. I'd echo that, and want to thank everybody for taking time out of your day to participate in this process, and really encouraged that we had participation from all over the state, and really appreciate you paying attention to this issue and following it and engaging with us as we consider our various alternatives. So thank you very much.
Thanks again. An evidentiary hearing in June, and further public comment hearings May 1st in Hayden from 4 to 6, and a remote comment hearing Thursday, June 5th from 5 to 7. With that, we're adjourned, and thanks again.